This podcast contains spoilers, so listen at your own risk or call back after you've watched the movie.
You know who you call. Leave a message. Maybe they'll call you back. Then again, maybe they won't.
We're having ourselves quite a little game of phone tag here.
Ring. I usually get this guy's answering machine.
I'll call you right back.
If you're there, please pick up the phone. I really want to talk to you.
I check my fucking messages every day when I come home from work. My answering machine, zero. I got a blinking light.
All I have to do is pick up this phone right here, inform the cinema, and your plan's kaput.
No, I ain't got no phone. I had to pull, because people calling all the time, and who needs the aggravation, right? Interruptions.
Right, I've done 2 laps of the park now. I've just sent you one voice note about weapons. Now I'm going to send you another voice note about Together. Hope that's the name, because I always get confused with the Duplass TV series Togetherness. And to be fair, both names would have worked. So I mentioned that I watched Weapons late at night. I watched Together straight after Weapons. I mentioned that I don't normally watch movies at night time, and you are a champion of it. And it certainly added to the experience in Weapons, the time of night I watched it in. And I think I was really primed to be in the horror zone, if you can call it that, by midnight when I watched my second movie in this double bill, which is Together. And yeah, I like Dave Franco as an actor at times. I like Alison Brie. For some reason I thought it was directed by Dave Franco, but it's not. It's directed by somebody else. Can't remember his name right now. I think it could be Michael Shanks, although I could just be pulling that name out of thin air. So yeah, this movie is watched after midnight. After the intensity of Weapons, I had debated wanting to watch another movie because I was already just feeling a little bit shingly, feeling like I needed to shake some eeriness out of my system. And as I often say, I'm not sure if I have the stamina for so much horror, but I wanted to get both of these movies out of the way because there's a few movies you've sent me voice notes to that I want to watch over the weekend as well, to get back to you while it's fresh. So I thought, why not? My partner was up for it. She had a great time with Weapons, more so than me, although I liked it, as I said, and she was up for watching Together. So this movie does what, not to say the cream of the crop, but what very smart directors, what very smart storytelling does. And it doesn't get us into the premise right away in terms of the genre of horror. I guess this would be body horror, but it does get us into the premise that will be carrying all the crazy elements and the crazy central conceit of this movie that we'll be getting later. And that is by building up a relationship drama and exploring the dynamics between this couple very early on. And I love when movies do that. We watched The Outwaters last year, I think, at this point. And probably the first 45 minutes, if not more, of that movie is following these characters in a very minimalistic way And I think one of us or both of us said it reminded us of mumblecore. And it really sets the groundwork for the tone that we get later. And I think this movie really sets the tone as well. We almost get something akin to Your Sister's Sister early on in this, which is a complete dramedy, where you have Franco, his parents have died horribly, as we find out. It's almost reminiscent of the character in Midsummer in a way. He's very depressed, he's checked out, he's going through a lot. He seems like one of those men who wouldn't be able to look after a woman, and I always find it very interesting to see that character type, because I'm in a very 50-50 partnership, and I'm sure you're in a very 50-50 partnership. But I think what's very unique as a man and the pressures of a man is, rightly or wrong, whether you get it from your partner or not, and I certainly don't get it from mine, but you always feel like you have to be the one with a plan. You have to be the provider. Now, as I said, this is just a feeling. It doesn't happen in actuality, but you have to provide stability. You need to provide financial support. And again, I say this to someone in a 50-50 relationship. This is just feelings unique to a man, in my opinion. I know from talking to my partner, women have a hell of a lot of unique sentiment to them that we can't understand. So I like seeing a character who I identify as somebody who, not to say every woman wouldn't want, because I'm speaking very generally here, but one of the complaints I hear from my female friends all the time is, and probably one of the biggest quote unquote icks, is that they feel like they're their partner's mother, and they feel like their partner is wanting a mother. So I suppose that's the biggest thing to stay clear of. Never mind provider, never mind providing, thinking you need to lead and all this type of thing. The biggest thing to avoid is not giving that impression, and Dave Franco gives that impression in abundance in this movie early on. Very reminiscent of the Mark Duplass character in Your Sister's Sister, as I said. And he is a mess. He is going through a lot. So the other thing is, you don't know if this character was always like this or he's just become like this. So there is immense sympathy for the character as well. And he plays it very well in the early scenes, for sure. You feel a lot for him, and then there's all the passive aggressive comments from Alison Brie's friends, like he's just going to be a 47-year-old white guy in his room who never met it. And my partner turns to me and says, what's a white guy got to, what's being white got to do with this? And then there's, yeah, you just get the impression her friends are trying to be supportive, but the second Alison Brie says she doesn't want to be with him anymore, they would facilitate that whole breakup with glee. And I think Alison Brie is a very interesting actress as well. I like her quite a lot. I think she's got very good comic timing. I think she's very good at inhabiting a role, like in Mad Men. And I think what she's particularly good at, and what's very good in the casting here, she's very good at what I call repressed politeness, where she has been bred to be a nice person. She therefore is a nice person because she goes around the world being nice to people. But at the same time, there's another person in there beneath the niceness and the politeness who is almost in denial that they want almost to be a social climber, that they want this type of man, that they're not really honest with themselves and almost lying to themselves. But at the same time, she does a very good thing of showing that repression on the outside at times, just through looks, just through glances, just if you just bend the prism of the rainbow slightly in her and look further on, you'll see what she really is and what she really thinks. So I always like performances like that, and I think in Mad Men in this, she's very good at it. So at the heart, it's a very strong portrayal of a couple in two places in their life. One is trying to pull her boyfriend through, be reasonable, be a good person, and the other is just a complete mess, trying to grapple with his emotions. So these two characters move away to this place in the small village, I guess we can never see it. Smaller than a village probably, because we only see a bunch of houses and we see a school where she goes to take a job and try and rebuild their lives. And on the one hand, what this movie is about is how two people view commitment in a relationship. And that is explored through body horror. And I think it's not so much an allegory, it's not so much a mechanism to explore it. I think this movie does a very good job of balancing the themes and relationship questions about couples on the one hand, and just pure entertainment on the other. And I think, to its credit, it does it very well. So we get this scene very early on in the movie, I think before we are introduced to the characters of these dogs going to this cave and drinking some water, and then they are staring at each other, beside each other, and then they basically, it almost looks like they attack each other, but they're almost combined by limb. So that's the early foreshadowing we get. And then take that to the scene of our couple hiking in their new area. They fall down this hole, the same hole from the beginning of the movie. And then it's already established that something fucked up happened there. And so you're waiting for something to go wrong. But at the same time, you're really enjoying, or at least I was, I can't speak for everybody, you're really enjoying the relationship and the banter. I should mention that they're a real couple, so they do have natural chemistry. Now, that isn't always the case on screen with natural couples, but I think they have very natural chemistry and very much trust each other as actors side by side as well. So have this great time watching them. And Dave Franco's character, he tries to light a fire, and because it's already established, you really can't do anything in a survival capacity. You don't fancy his chances of being able to do it. And then they drink from that water for some reason. And a lot of the quote unquote bad decisions that horror movie characters make, I kind of buy that this character would make a bad decision at every turn because they establish how inept he is at times and how unable to clearly think at times. So I wasn't thinking, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? I would be more surprised that she would. Although at the same time, I feel like she wants to be led and she wants him to take control and she wants him to assert himself. So when they're in that environment and it's all stripped back, almost like hunter-gatherers for a night, I feel like when he's trying to do these things and trying to give her the last bit of water and then drinking from there, I think she is attracted to that element of him. So maybe she would go along with it as well, but I don't know if I'm being kind. And the other thing as well, you do feel like she genuinely loves him, although that may be just because the two actors love each other. But you do feel like she does love him, but she just wants a hell of a lot more from him, and it's very stressful carrying somebody like him through the struggles he's in. So they get out of that place, and then that is when things take a turn. And yeah, I don't know what the quote unquote science behind this is, but I think it's almost like two parasites, two halves of a parasite in the same body, in two different bodies that want to combine to reunite. And yeah, we got some really good scenes where she wakes up in the middle of the night and he's choking on her hair. He wakes up and she's banging against the door repeatedly, trying to get in. And then their hands are fused together and they have to use that saw. Because the second you saw that saw, how many saws would a saw? If a saw could saw flesh, you know it's going to be used. That's Chekhov's saw, if I ever saw one. And I actually forgot about it. And then when they're fused together, I'm thinking, oh no, they're going to have to get the saw. So we get scenes like that are very good. I wouldn't say I found this scary, but I was horrified and I was primed to feel unsettled based on the previous movie as well. But at a certain point, this movie gets really funny to me. And I don't know how intentional it is, but Dave Franco screams and hollers in a very funny way. At a certain point, he keeps on doing it, and his performance is very nuanced up until that point early on. But when he goes big, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I felt like something had changed in what I was watching, and now it became a dark comedy almost. And I think that's where, as much as the heightened body horror happens, I think that's where it gets very heightened about how people feel about relationships once it's established what's actually happening between them. It's when two people live together, and of course there's a whole cult element to this as well, where it used to be a church, then it found out that the teacher in their school, he was part of this church, and he transformed and manifested with his partner, and two became one, which is literally a song by the Spice Girls they use in this movie. And he thinks it's the most greatest thing ever. They both share history, memories, emotions. And then in the cave, we get the other alternative to that, where it's these horrible creatures amalgamated together who didn't fuse, who didn't give in to each other. And I think it's telling in this that Alison Brie's character goes to the house with the cult, and I'm not saying she's not horrified, but she is told about a magnificent experience, a life-changing experience where they both live together and perfect harmony. And then DeFranco goes to the other place where he just sees the most horrible, fucked up things imaginable. And yeah, I think there's definitely something there about the psychology of a relationship itself that I found very fascinating and very interesting to digest on, where there's a dog running by me now, where, for instance, my relationship, I feel like definitely we complete each other, not to get corny here, but everything I'm lacking, I get from my partner, and I'm definitely lost without her in my life, for sure. And I had a previous relationship where it was somebody trying to enforce every stamp of themselves on me, where it was hard to be myself. Like, I used to go to the cinema in secret by myself because she would complain that I was spending money on the cinema, or, oh, don't work out too much in the gym. And this is obviously, that's very extreme in my, well, you all know about my previous relationship, but that's what people worry about on a very minimum level, even when it comes to this dog is running by me again, in relationships, that you lose yourself, you lose your identity, you are literally breathing only each other's air and only each other's skin, and it's suffocating. And the other hand is that if it's healthy, it can be magical. And yeah, it's very interesting stuff to explore within the body horror genre. I haven't really seen anything like that before, and there's some really nice visual flourishes as well. Like when he's dreaming, I think it's like a tree bark or something, and it's breathing, but it's his lungs, and he's panicking and he's having a panic attack. As somebody who's had night panics over the last few months, although thankfully it's calmed down a bit now, I think that is a perfect visualization of what that feels like when you wake up in the middle of the night. And I think at times what they try and visualize with infusing in a relationship is probably equally as scary to commitment phobes, or people who are really scared about that aspect of a relationship. They must be thinking, yeah, or people who've had bad versions of that relationship. Yeah, and I liked every element of this movie, really. I think it worked for me tonally. The comedy worked for me. The mystery, although there's not much of a mystery other than the town settlers and what happened and what's that church, I actually really like that as well, even though it's a nice little tidbit, if nothing else. And I think the end scene is very good. It's a choice to use a very literal song like Spice Girls 2 for become one when they do fuse. But I think the movie is consistent enough in its tone by that point that you're not thinking that it has ruined everything that came before it, because there is a lightness to the over-the-topness of this movie as much as there is a thrilling intensity. So it's not like something like 28 years later, which you know what I'm referring to, where something happens that really undoes the world. I think the world that we're watching in this movie is very consistent, even when it's not consistent. So I don't know if you're a body horror guy. I don't think we've watched many of those movies in Spooktober together, actually. I don't know if you consider it horror, for that matter, but that's very arbitrary over what considers what a horror. But I guess it wouldn't be arbitrary for you, because you wouldn't be watching those type of movies in Spooktober. But yeah, regardless, It was a good movie that is a very hard thing to do right and a very easy thing to mess up. So I would commend them for that.
Hey man, just coming to the end of my workday now on a Friday. Best time of the week. It's been gorgeous, gorgeous sunny weather last week, and now it's gone completely overcast again. So we'll see what the weekend holds. But at least we got some lovely autumn weather throughout the week. You watched this film a week ago. I've just watched it last night. Got my Spooktober starting in a week's time when I'll be absolutely drowning in horror movies, but nice to kind of uncork the season with Together. And then later that night I watched Weapons as well. So did the same double bill as you, I think in the reverse order. So I'll just say right from the jump here, I am not particularly a fan of body horror. It's maybe my least liked genre, of, like subgenre of horror. I guess horror comedy might be my most disliked. I think I'm trying to think now, like if there's ever been a body horror film that I found scary. That's always my main agenda when I watch horror, and this is probably why comedy horror is not like a major thing for me. I love horror, and I love all forms of horror, like anything like body horror, comedy horror. It's all fun. I'm happy to watch it all. Like it's part of the horror family. I like it enough to watch it. But my favorite experience to get with horror is to be scared. And in my experience with body horror, they're almost always someone's body, or either one person or multiple people's body, is being corrupted, like the kind of autonomy or integrity of the body is being undermined and evolved in an involuntary fashion usually. And that's going to get more and more, that's going to ramp up and get more extreme over the course of the movie. And that's kind of the plot. Like there isn't much in the way of suspense. It's more just like, let's just watch their body get more and more fucked up. And I can find that quite tedious and boring. And it doesn't do it for me on a horror. Like, just for context, my favorite type of horror is like slashers and stuff, where it's like someone's outside, but maybe they're not. You're hiding under the table. Can they see you? Like that, just very direct kind of cat and mouse type of thing. So the body horror thing, I guess it also feels like very fatalistic a lot of the time. It's like as soon as it starts happening, you're like, well, this person is fucked. Like there's no walking back from this. They're not going to manage to like kick the killer down the stairs, jump out the window and like make it away and they're fine. Like it's just from the jump, they're fucked because their body is just like so like undermined or whatever. So it's not a genre that I generally gravitate towards. I think my favorite body horror that I can think of is like not even remotely a horror movie, which is Titan, French film that came out a few years back. I'm not sure if you caught that one, but I really, really liked that movie. And it was, unlike most body horror movie, like not remotely a horror movie. And I think that worked a lot better for me because it was like Together and like most body horror movies, it was very, it had a lot of like thematic stuff going on, and you were able to just enjoy that in a drama form rather than the experience of watching a horror movie that you don't find scary. So that's like, I just want to position myself there because, as you know, I adore horror. So you might be thinking like, oh, he must be a body horror guy because it's just one of the like major genres of horror, but it's not really my thing. Sometimes I'll watch a movie that's not a body horror movie per se, but like has a body horror element to it. Like, for example, the chest busting scene in Alien, where it's like, you know, seeing something really fucked up happen to the human body, that is a great moment. But the slow like loss of control over your body like is not really my bag. Now this movie I saw on Horizon, it was a quite high profile movie long before its release because of the plagiarism lawsuit that the film came under, which I don't know much about, but there is a 2023 movie that this is accused of being kind of a copy of, and I mean, there certainly seems to be immense similarities there, but yeah, interesting. It's got the baggage of being accused of being like made in a kind of unethical way and wrestled away from other people, and then it's got the baggage of what's her name, Alison Brie and Dave Franco being an actual married couple, or at least in a relationship, in a boyfriend, girlfriend, partner. They use every single euphemism under the sun in this movie to describe their relationship, which is funny. So I mean, the former, whatever, like that's like behind the scenes stuff. It's not really part of the movie, but the latter is difficult to get out of your brain, or at least it was for me as I'm watching it. I think as much as I'm also a big fan of Alison Brie and Dave Franco, I think maybe the movie could have done with not having an actual famously real life couple making it. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. Probably a lot of people, maybe yourself included, who would say that that's an asset to this film. For me, it was just a little too cute, or I don't know. It didn't. Maybe it's because there's so much in creative control. I remember when Eyes Wide Shut came out, it felt like Stanley Kubrick was using Kidman and Cruise as like Lego character. Like he was in control and they were his playthings, and he was using them and their status as a Hollywood power couple and icons of a shiny exterior relationship in a creative way. But when it feels like, and I could be wrong on this, but it feels like Franco and Brie are part of the creative process beyond just being actors. And again, could be wrong on that, but it feels that way to me, that it kind of, I don't know, it just somehow feels a bit like you've gone over to this couple's house and they're doing like putting on some sort of little drama show. And yeah, I don't know. I probably would have preferred if that just wasn't in my head whatsoever. Maybe it would have been even different if I'd watched the movie and just didn't even know that they were together, which is impossible because they've done plenty of stuff together and it's very public, the whole relationship and stuff. So yeah, obviously the film has a lot, as you mentioned, of commentary on relationships, or this relationship, or just relationships in general. The loss of individualism or individuality that comes with being in, or that comes with commitment, comes with increased commitment. Maybe the evolution of a relationship from a fun 20s casual, like we're just a couple of cool kids in the scene, to like we're now becoming one person. We're no longer part of a social party scene, part of a crowd, where our life more and more is just going to be like the two of us in isolation. It is about many, many things. And I agree with your point that it's smart. It's always smart in a film to start the film, like get the themes well structured and well defined before then the surreal, supernatural horror perversions of those themes come into play. So when the body horror stuff happens, or whatever happens in a given horror movie, you were already sort of thinking about that stuff in a different in different terms, and then it's kind of complements it. So I completely agree with that, and that's one of my favorite things in horror, is when the horror, or at least the most overt horror, in this case the more morphing bodies together, when that is introduced into a situation or environment or whatever that is already horrific in a more realistic way, because the characters are grieving, or they're depressed, or they're vulnerable economically, or they're victims of racism, or like there's just it's an already horrible and traumatic situation, and now some like 10 times worse shit is about to happen. I really like that, and this film does a lot that I really like. But the plodding nature of, and it's not plodding because it's really fun. Like as you said, it's well directed. I also thought it might have been a Franco joint. He made The Rental, which is one of my favorite horror films of recent years. It is this new guy, Michael Shanks, I think he's called. I also didn't quite get the name hard coded into my brain, but it's very fun scenes. I mean, it's kind of horror comedy in a way. I think you described it as dark comedy, maybe in your message there. It's certainly very fun and crazy and wacky and stuff like that. So it's not plodding in the sense of like the moment to moment stuff you're watching is boring, but it's a bit plodding in the sense of, okay, they're going to just keep joining together, right? Like that's what's going to happen. Yep, that is what's happening. Is it going to happen more? Yep, it's going to happen more. It's going to keep happening and getting more and more intense. Yep, it's going to do. And like, that's fine, but it's not like, that's less just that actual physical monstrous event is not that engaging to me. It's not that interesting. Like you, I kind of got more invested in the mystery of like, what's the story with this old cult? And as soon as the Damon Herriman character is introduced, it's like, well, okay, so the one other person in the movie that lives in the yellow house down the road, he's probably somehow connected to this. And then I think, I don't know about yourself, but I kind of did the math on, you see the 2 wedding rings on his finger, and you do the math fairly early that he must have been part of the cult. Oh, he must have merged with the other guy in the photo, and he's a merge man. There isn't, the mystery is interesting, but you kind of, the movie sort of, it has this real sense of inevitability around it, which kind of took the edge off a little bit for me. I didn't find it scary. I found, I'll tell you one problem this film has is I'm someone who, I don't watch trailers. If I have zero context in a movie, like I've absolutely no reference point for it. Like I don't know the people in it, the people who directed it, what it's about, anything like that. It's just some kind of movie completely out of nowhere. I might watch the first half of the trailer, and then as soon as I'm sold on it, even if that's like 10 seconds into the trailer, I'll be like, okay, turn off that trailer. Now I'm sold on it. Most movies that are like by people I like, and again, I thought this was directed by Dave Franco, so I was like, I loved The Rental. They're making a horror movie again, these two. I've liked, Joe Swanberg horror stuff and just general like these people, this troupe, like Alison Brie's always doing interesting little indie movies and stuff. Like I'm kind of interested, so I didn't watch any trailers for this, but the fucking posters, man, like there's every time I've seen a poster for this movie, it's been either them kissing with the lips being one lip or 2 eyes close together with the eyes merging, and it's like, do you really have to ruin all of your best effects shots? And I don't mean best in terms of like the technical execution. I mean best as in like, that's iconic, that's fresh, that's new. I go into this movie and months before I watch the movie, I already know that it's going to be about their bodies merging together as a body horror thing. So if I didn't know that, if I just stumbled upon this movie on Netflix in 10 years and I've never heard of it, then it's probably got way better pacing than my experience with it. Because as much as it becomes it's clearly an inevitability that it's going to ramp up from when it starts. For me, it's an inevitability from long before it even starts, the body horror stuff. Now, if I remove all that and I just go like, let's just sort of judge it without that, if it's possible to even do so, without that like prior knowledge. It's a relatively short movie. It's a fun movie. I just like these people. Obviously, a lot of it kind of hits home because like I'm in a couple. I was in my 20s. I'm in my 30s, just about, for a few more months. I like have been in like creative stuff. I've lived in cities. I've lived in smaller places. Just like it's all. There's a lot of texture here that I'm like, yeah, I can appreciate all this. I enjoyed the movie. I think it was fine, but it didn't really have much in the way of surprises for me. That's why I lent more into the cult mystery stuff. And then as soon as you get anywhere with that, you kind of quickly guess everything about it. So yeah, cute little movie, but not really. No, I don't know, just not really one that will end up having left a major impression on me. I liked the two become one thing. I think the movie has fun with itself. It likes to go big here and there. It likes its big moments, like the sex scene in the kids' schoolroom cubicle, and it's fun. Like it's definitely not a mark against Franco and Brie. It's another feather in their cap of like constantly making cool, interesting little small movies, but it's for me not one that like I don't know is anything more than like a decent night's fun, dispose of it straight away kind of thing. Which again, for someone who's not really a fan of body horror, that's fairly admirable terms to put it in. I think if you are a big body horror person, you like your video drones and stuff like that, then the effects work is good. And I really liked those camera angles, those like high drone shots of like the car driving along, them going hiking, and yeah, there was nice bits of visual identity along the way. And yeah, not really much more that I can think to say of it, but decent flick. And maybe if this is the only film that this director has made, for starters, like pretty impressive to put something like this out as your debut. But yeah, be nice to see like a leveling up with the next one.
Yeah, I feel like the publicity, correct me if I'm wrong, rubbed you the wrong way a bit, where there was a little bit of an overexposure to them as a couple promoting the movie that might have rubbed you the wrong way as well. I can't remember. You might have mentioned something before. I wondered if that have an effect where now you're trying to see them in actor mode, even as you said you like them. And yeah, you make a very good point about the marketing of this movie in terms of the posters and whatnot, because I heard there was a movie coming out called Together, starring these two, and I got good reviews, and that was it. I added it to my watch list, and when it was going to come out, I was going to see it. That's it. When the trailer came out in the cinema, I blocked my ears, I blocked my nose, I was going to say, blocked my ears and eyes, and I didn't want to find anything about it. But yet somehow, before going in, I knew exactly how the first act was going to go down. I knew the central premise, and that's not from reading. That's just from posters and a screenshot while I'm scrolling on Metacritic or something, things that are really against my will. And so I'm already knowing where it's going to go. And yeah, I think you have a problem with the body horror structure that a lot of these movies follow. And I think there's certain movies that I have a problem with how the structure goes as well. Dream-like ghost stories usually always end up the same way for me, where they're just getting attracted to something that they shouldn't, and then eventually, oh, whoop-de-doo, they're found dead as well. And when something's in a framework that you know the structure, if it's not your jam, you can be really, really like you've read a synopsis beforehand, or like when we were watching High and Low the other day, it's kind of like, well, I know where this is going to go, so what's your little variation on it? And there's also a movie I want to evoke in this conversation, but I actually can't because I know you haven't seen it yet and I don't know what you know about it. So I will remove that from the record and instead say that if you didn't know that this movie was a body horror, it's probably the best way you'll get going into these body horror movies. Like, this is not a horror movie by any means, but the Santa Claus, which is the replacement movie I've had to pull from my head to not spoil another movie that you might have upcoming. And in the Santa Claus, obviously, is a comedy, it's a kid's comedy, but, and pardon me to spoil the Santa Claus for you, where halfway through it, I remember seeing it as a kid, and he can't do anything but transform into Santa Claus. Like, he tries to lose weight and then he gets heavier. He tries to shave his beard and then his beard goes back. And I remember thinking that is a horrifying way to become Santa Claus. But I didn't know I was watching something that would have those elements in it. So that was horrifying in itself. And not to say the Santa Claus follows the trajectory of a classic body horror movie. Although, to be fair, he does become Santa Claus at the end. So I guess it does in that sense. So I get what you mean. If you didn't know what you were going to watch, it could almost be a twist that it's a body horror, and that's the best way that you can get. The cats are having a fight between me here. And you know what would be good for a body horror movie, actually? If the transformation happened halfway through and then the second half was dealing with what that was like. Because normally we get the ending of a body horror and then that's it. And there's probably so much interest to be had if the character or characters don't die to be had in navigating the world. Now your body's transformed. And yeah, you mentioned Damon Herriman, is it? I like him. And yeah, because I'm familiar with that actor, even when I knew he was part of the cult and he had transformed, it never occurred to me that it's half and half. I thought whichever body is more dominant almost disappears into the other. So when there's some weird amalgamation of Alison Brie and Dave Franco answering the door where it's both of their features, that was really jarring and a really not the type of body transformation I was expecting, especially after seeing well-known actor to me, Herriman. So luckily the tone was comedic enough that you could take that ending and be like, oh, look at that. But at the same time, that's not what I was expecting at all, which I guess is a twist in terms of the transformation. But yeah, I'm still on the train with these guys. I like them. It was a fun movie. And I don't necessarily have those reservations that you do about body horror, although I have, besides the Santa Claus, I've not seen many because it's just not something that interests me. But yeah, I'm far from fatigued by it. But at the same time, I wouldn't see a movie like this and look up the 10 best body horror movies. So I think maybe I'm the right person to watch a movie like this as much as you are the wrong person. But yeah, nice stuff.
Yeah, well, once you've seen the Santa Claus, it's all downhill from there in the old body horror genre. Yeah, you've reminded me now of the fact that I've been watching them doing the sort of publicity tour for the last few months. You know, you sort of watching YouTube, you see a video pop up. It's Dave Franco, Alison Brie, longtime fan of both of them, like their collaborations together. Even think they come across well in interviews individually, but as a couple, they're just so grating, at least on this publicity tour, just so try hard, like they come across so fake. It's like Zoe Kravitz and Channing Tatum on the tour they did for that Blink Twice movie. And and it's like, ay, really, this isn't selling it well for me. But yeah, sure. Anyway, I think maybe some of that helps the movie a bit because it's supposed to be like a relationship that's kind of coming apart at the seams, but it was just in my head a bit more than it probably should have been. The fact that they're a couple, but made this movie about what being in a couple is like, but also like trying to make it be like, this isn't us though, or something. I don't know. Some stuff there just wasn't working for me. And yeah, the posters, like you said that with the material you had seen, even with your usual level of discipline of trying to put the blinkers on, you had seen enough to sort of spoil the first act. I feel like I'd kind of seen enough to spoil the entire movie in a sense, because if I knew that if I was right, which I was, that this was your classic body horror format, you know, like The Fly or whatever, where the bodies are just going to become more and more fucked up over the course of the movie. If I was right about that, which again turned out I was, then seeing what the body horror is, which is that their bodies are going to be joining together and they're going to be meshing together into one organism, you've got the whole movie there in one poster, and it spoils some of the best sight gags in the whole film. So, you know, again, decent movie. I'm not trying to say that like there was nothing left in the experience. I liked the movie fine as a night's entertainment, but I really would have appreciated coming to this completely blind. Like if it wasn't starring famous people, it was just a lower budget indie movie that I didn't know about. I found it randomly and I watched it, and I was like, the whole thing was like whoa, this is crazy. But yeah, even the fact that they ultimately are going to end up as one person, and that sight gag at the end with the Alison, I guess it's Alison Brie doing the performance, but in Dave Franco makeup, which is he's got his crazy eyebrows and his weird fucking mullet that he's got in this movie. So you might be able to hear my little son now, who's currently joined to me as one big organism. Just about to see bedtime. Okay, he doesn't want me to finish this voice now. But anyway, suffice to say, had a good time with it. Thought it was decent. Not exactly my bag, but there was enough here that I was like, okay, I like that they're still doing these fresh, original, not super original, but like something novel and fun projects. That seems to be the Dave Franco, Alison Brie formula, is like find interesting little like low budget directors, make interesting little but entertaining, cool little pictures, and I'm still here for it, and I'm interested to see what the director does next. But this isn't just exactly my wheelhouse. So yeah.
Your mailbox is full. Please delete new or stored messages which you no longer need so that new messages may be received.